The Pittsburgh Steelers were 3-point underdogs going on the road to the LA Rams, and they proved in this game why you should never count out the Pittsburgh Steelers. The majority of people that I talked to picked against the Pittsburgh Steelers to win this game. But one thing about me is that I know my team pretty well, and I know that the Pittsburgh Steelers are one of those teams that always plays well when the expectations for them are pretty low. And here's the thing about the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? When you look at the way that they win games, this offense is terrible. We know that. Matt Canada is probably going to get fired after this season. But the thing with the Steelers is that this is a team that doesn't need a great offense to be able to be a great football team. They play true to who they are. They play true to their identity. You know what their identity is? Playing a hard-nosed football. There's a reason why the Steel Curtain is one of the most iconic names in NFL history. Hard-nosed, great defense. And that's what the Pittsburgh Steelers have. And anytime you have a great defense, that can sometimes lead to a very good offense. You know, TJ Watt, not only is he great getting after the quarterback, but he also had a really big play in pass coverage that he made that helped put the Pittsburgh Steelers in position to eventually come back in this game. And the Steelers offense, it's not going to be anything pretty. And the Steelers are definitely not going to be a team that's going to make it anywhere further than the divisional round if they ever get into the playoffs this year with Matt Canada as their offensive coordinator, because eventually you're going to go up against a team where your defense isn't going to be able to hold you for all 4 quarters when you're going up against a top-level offense like the Kansas City Chiefs or the Buffalo Bills. Even if they play the Ravens again, if they play the Ravens and the Ravens are playing at the same level that they did against the Detroit Lions, the Steelers would be in trouble. If the Steelers have to face a high-power offense and that team also has a very good defense, this offense isn't going to be enough to sustain them being able to make a deep playoff run of being able to beat some of the better teams in the league when they actually have capable offenses. You see, the thing with the LA Rams is that their offensive line isn't really all that great, and even though they do got some really good wide receivers, the Steelers' offensive line was really getting after Matthew Stafford. Now, Matthew Stafford did showcase some really good mobility in this game, but Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt and everybody else on that Pittsburgh Steelers defensive front were really getting after him. And the scariest thing is that the Steelers don't even have Cam Hayward. Imagine if they would have had Cam Hayward with the way that this defensive line is playing right now. There's just so much talent and depth on this defensive line. This is one of the top 3 best defensive lines in the NFL. The LA Rams, they did do a really good job at executing in third down situations. One thing that is really apparent when it comes to the Steelers, they absolutely have some major problems when it comes to the secondary. If you can give your quarterback time to throw, you're going to have a pretty good day against these cornerbacks. Joey Porter Jr. is pretty good. Patrick Peterson is hit or miss at times, and then whoever else they be throwing out there at the other cornerback spot, like, you don't really have no answers there. So the Steelers definitely should be in the trade market trying to get another cornerback. Hell, like if the Denver Broncos want 2 first-round picks for Patrick Surtain, I'll give that shit up for a heartbeat. If the Steelers could get another elite cornerback in this defense, it would change so much. Joey Porter, I think he's really good. He's going to grow with time. But the other cornerbacks that they be throwing out there aren't it. I like Patrick Peterson in the slot, but I don't really think anything needs to be changed to him, but just that other outside cornerback spot, like, you need somebody there. I didn't know why they got rid of Kilo Weatherspoon. Like, he was never that bad to me. Like, he was pretty solid. But in this game, like, Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, they were going to work in this game. Now, even though the Steelers defense showed up and they were able to slow those guys down in the 4th quarter, like, what's going to happen if they go up against a Joe Burrow team when Joe Burrow is clicking on all cylinders? I'm just a little bit concerned with how this secondary tends to play at times. If the Steelers can't get a consistent pass rush and they're going up against one of the best offensive lines in the NFL and they can neutralize TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith and their interior defensive linemen, then this secondary is going to get shredded. And this offense, they don't help out the defense. You know the Steelers have a really good defense because they bail out the offense. This is an offense that anytime you watch them, you're not going to really miss much. Like, you could go get you something to eat, come back 2 minutes later, and the defense is back on the field because the offense is going 3 and out. On the offensive line, like, I don't really think it's the greatest. And then when you look at the running back position, Jaylen Warren is better than Najee Harris. Like, Najee Harris, he's a really good power back, but for some reason, he just doesn't have the it factor that you're looking for when it comes to a first round running back. He doesn't just have that explosiveness that guys like B. John Robinson and Saquon Barkley and past first round running backs have. And he kind of looks like a whiff of a draft pick. Now, I'm not going to call him a bust because I do think he can be a solid contributor at times. But in terms of him being a first round pick, like, he definitely was a wasted selection there. And when you look at the third down conversion rate for the 12, the Steelers are just one of the worst third down teams in the NFL because the play calling and the play design just isn't that great. But Matt Canada, to his credit, this probably was one of the best games that he called as the offensive coordinator of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He got Deontay Johnson involved. George Pickens made some really big catches down the stretch in this game. And the Steelers were able to score 14 points in the fourth quarter to come back from behind to beat the LA Rams. And I'm a diehard Steelers fan till I die. And I do think that this is a team that's capable of being able to win this division and potentially being able to make it to the playoffs, even if they don't win. I think this is a 10 or 11 win football team, even though they don't got a great offense. Like, at times, this offense can be good enough. And you do have playmakers. It's just the play calling just isn't there. And the offensive line is going to be a little bit outmatched depending on who they play on certain afternoons. But for the most part, the Steelers still are a really good team. And I think that this win really started to wake people up to, hey, like, you can't really count out the Pittsburgh Steelers. Even though they don't got a great offense, they got an identity, and their identity is winning with football. And as long as they're able to keep games close going into the fourth quarter and you're not blowing them out really bad and they don't get into situations where their offense has to air it out, they're going to be in any ball game. They're going to have a chance to win. This is a scrappy football team, and this is just the way that Mike Tomlin just wants to win games. He has no problem with games coming down to the wire, his teams having to come back from behind. One thing about Kenny Pickett that I will give him credit for is that I do think that he tends to play his best football in the fourth quarter, which is pretty weird. If you go back to even his rookie season last year, he had like 4 or 5 fourth quarter comebacks. Kenny Pickett is just one of those quarterbacks that even when the Steelers do get a better offensive coordinator, I never think he's going to be a high-level quarterback. I think maybe on certain occasions he may be a fringe top 10 quarterback here or there, but for the most part, I just think he's going to be one of those scrappy quarterbacks that he may not always blow you away statistically, but in a fourth quarter of games, he's going to elevate his performance. And that's just the kind of quarterback that Kenny Pickett has been anytime the Steelers have been in close games. He tends to play very well and put the Steelers in situations to win. Now, George Pickens, he's an animal. He's something different. We knew that when he was coming out of Georgia that he was cut from a different cloth. And Deontay Johnson, I was happy to see him back on there in the field. He was definitely missed. He's one of the best route runners in the NFL. Nobody is better at creating separation on this team than Deontay Johnson. Calvin Austin wasn't bad. You know, he was a pretty solid replacement, but anytime you have a guy that's an elite route runner and a great separator like Deontay Johnson, he puts a lot of stress on defenses. This was a great win by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Meanwhile, for the LA Rams, my thing with the LA Rams is that I still think they are a team that could make it to the playoffs, but I think as their schedule continues to get a little bit more difficult, the fact that they got an overall young team with a roster that really isn't all that great, Sean McVay, he's just too good of a coach that he's not going to be bad enough for you to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. And the Rams do have their core group of star players healthy. Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford. So as long as those guys can stay healthy, the Rams are always going to have a shot in the majority of games that they play where they're not just completely mismatched on the offensive and defensive sides of the football. But the thing with the Rams is that they're too top heavy. They don't have a lot of great talent on other positions. You know, they got a couple of rookies that are standing out, but for the most part, like, their secondary isn't the greatest. You know, this is just kind of a team that Sean McVay kind of was able to put together, and he was able to find a couple of gems here and there in the draft, such as Puka Nacua, and he's able to make some things shake. Because all Sean McVay needs is a really good offense. The defense with Aaron Donald is going to be good enough. But in games like this, when you're going up against a really good defense, the Rams kind of are going to need that offense to have to step it up, because they definitely could have won this game. And you definitely understand why the majority of people picked the Rams to pull off this win against Pittsburgh, because this is just an offensive kind of league now with the direction that the NFL has headed. So anytime you have a team that's kind of known for defense and they don't really got a great offense, it kind of turns a lot of people off. But at the end of the day, there's a reason why they still have the saying defense wins championships. And sometimes a great offense can be kind of helped by a great defense, or a great defense can lead to a great offense, or sometimes a great defense just is a great offense. I think that's how they say it. But the Steelers beat the Rams 24-17. Comment your thoughts about this game in the comment section down below.